Hey there, it's Carly with another episode of the Expat Focus podcast. You've no doubt heard about the devastating second wave of COVID-19 that India's currently experiencing and how it has overwhelmed the local health system. Many foreigners have decided to leave while they still can as countries put bans on flights to try to prevent the spread of India's COVID mutation. One foreigner who is staying put in the country is YouTuber Jenks. An American, he has been based there for the past couple of years, and he's joining me in this episode to describe what the situation is like where he is in South India, why he has decided to stay, and how he's keeping himself safe. A heads up, there are a couple of sound glitches in this episode. Sorry for that, but they don't last very long. If you would prefer to read a transcript of the interview, you can find it at expatfocus.com/podcast. Ben, you run a YouTube channel offering India travel tips, but I'm guessing that role has been a little bit different for you over the past few months.
It's been a little different, yeah, over the past year.
Yeah.
So, there was a change. I had been not traveling too much anyways, but was planning to travel and did a 3-week trip with my family, 3,600 miles around India. Just before lockdown, their flight actually got canceled once they found a flight home before it was fully locked down. But yeah, since the lockdown, I have been in a small town in South India and hoping things open up at some point.
It is a scary time to be in India. I was looking at figures online just before our chat. 4,000 deaths a day. Now, you're in South India. Tell me a little bit about, geography in India. Where are you compared to where these
Sure.
hotspots are at the moment?
So the cases are rising down here as well. But when it was first starting to rise a lot, Delhi and Mumbai, the huge cities where there's tons of people, were getting tons of cases and shortages in the hospital, not enough oxygen in some places in the hospital. Now, when that was happening, everything was still continuing as it had been down here. Now, a week ago, or maybe a few days ago, we did just go into a full, not a full lockdown, but in the morning we can go out for essential items. But once noon comes around, then you're supposed to stay at home. And so I'm in a small place. It's a tourist town, but most people don't know about it. And it is a city. It's like 150,000 people, but it's not on most people's list. Chennai is a larger place, and it's a big city like a Mumbai or a Delhi. They're having more cases as well, from what I'm hearing. But on the ground, day to day, my life looks pretty much the same as it did beforehand. I'm able to buy food in like open markets, and people are wearing masks for the most part, and people are taking precautions. But aside from that, things in my world look the same pretty much. It doesn't seem super scary from what I'm seeing, but I know it does exist.
Where I'm from in Australia, they're arranging repatriation flights to get Aussies in India home. Is the US doing the same? And did you consider being repatriated?
There were commercial flights up until very recently. The US State Department put out a bulletin as well. If you were in India, you would, the way that they worded it was not like you have to come home, but it was like, if you want to, you should come home right now, because they may stop commercial flights. I haven't checked if they had started them, but I know that in the previous lockdown, there were repatriation flights going. So even though there weren't commercial flights previously, I could always get home basically, no matter what has ever been going on. So from the way that I looked at it, I did consider it. I was getting messages from family members, thinking,
I can imagine. Are you
yeah,
okay?
so, right.
Yeah.
So, and I did think about it, but then again, I just looked at my world thinking like, okay, well, do I feel like I can be safe here? I can go out, like I can buy vegetables like a 2-minute walk away. I can have my food delivered. It seems safe where I am. Okay, then what would my backup plan be? Let's say I were to get sick. What would happen? So I know of some hospitals here, even though it's a small place. Bangalore is 4 to 5 hours away. Chennai, another big city, 4 to 5 hours away. And I could get on a flight in Chennai and fly home. Was always sort of basically my approach was, it seems safe now. If I feel unsafe, then I'll fly home. And yeah.
I did see a video you posted on YouTube recently of looking to get a vaccination, but on that
Yes,
particular day you weren't successful. Have you been
I wasn't.
successful since?
I have not. I have not been successful since. I would like to. What happened was they told me 3 days. In 3 days, we started a full lockdown. So I've just been staying at home. And once things open up again, then I'm going to relook into that option because I would like to get vaccinated.
You said you're in South India in a tourist area. Are there many other expats where you are, and are you kind of sharing resources and knowledge?
Yes, there is a significant number. I don't know, maybe 50 to 100 of us around the area, just a ballpark figure. And there's a great Facebook group. Basically, any information I need to know gets posted on there by people who've been here way longer than myself. So I feel like I'm always up to date on information, even though I don't spend too much time having to read through everything and get up to date myself. But so that's really helpful, and that makes me feel safe in a sense too, that there are people I could go to that would be able to show me like who's a good doctor, where's the best hospital, what would the price be that I could pay that's reasonable, that sort of thing.
It is scary. I mean, I'm reading about oxygen shortages, not enough beds. People are,
Yeah.
literally dying on the street in front of hospitals before they can get help. I think if I was an expat in India, that would give me pause and make me think, if I get sick, are there resources here and services here that I know I can, be supported if it gets bad?
I can understand that. I can understand. I was staying with my girlfriend a while back, and she had more of those sort of fears, and she decided to leave and go back to Canada. Um, and if I felt the same way, then I would probably go home as well.
So, what is it that you love about India? What brought you to India?
I came here for a retreat. Some friends who I met online, there was this spiritual retreat. I read a book, a famous novel called Shantaram about epic novel, by the way. But on reading that novel and having that opportunity to go to retreat, I came for a few weeks, was like, oh, I could live here. This place is pretty nice. And then my lease was up a year later and was like, I can work online. I, was still thinking about India and thinking like, wow, I was living in Austin, Texas, and it's a really cool place, great restaurants, great music. But I was like getting more interested in film and video and spending time like watching classic films at home or making little videos near the river, and was just thinking, my life wouldn't be that much different in India as it is right now. So if I'm going to go, I'm not getting any younger when I give this a try. And it's worked out for me. I've been here over 2.5 years, and I would like to stay longer depending on how things go. I could also go home and be happy. It'd be nice to see my family as well, and to be back in America as well. But I'm still kind of planning to stay longer if that's the way things work out.
You said your life now is very much at home, food delivery, shop in open markets. I'm guessing you're being pretty safe. What were you doing
Yeah,
before the pandemic? What was your,
I was.
Indian travel adventure like?
Well, so like I mentioned, my mom and my aunt came, and so we had an epic adventure. They're both recently retired. Trying to do some wild adventures. And so that was a lot of fun. We went to the Taj Mahal, of course. We went to Varanasi and took a boat on the Ghats and walked through the burning Ghats, and went to Kerala, another beautiful tourist destination. Took a boat on the backwaters. Just did a bunch of epic things that was really fun to do. My life previous to that was basically working here, living here. I would go to there's a beautiful beach city not too far that was colonized by the French. It's got some great food. So I've been there. I've been to Chennai, a big city, a cosmopolitan city not too far away. Been to Bangalore, which is like the Silicon Valley of India. So I've taken some local trips before that. But aside from that, I've mostly been working online here and yeah, exploring the local culture down in the South, aside from that big trip.
What have you found most surprising living in India that perhaps you didn't know before?
Most surprising. What is most surprising? Let me see. What is most surprising? That when I first came, I didn't, when I first came and I stayed in a hotel, working online was super, super pain. And the hotel Wi-Fi, a lot of places say they have free Wi-Fi, but it's terrible in most of the places.
Rubbish.
But once I, made a friend and figured out how to rent a house, went to a nicer hotel, I found that the Wi-Fi speeds were pretty good. I've been able to work over full time, same as I would in Austin, Texas. And it's been surprisingly easy to do. If you were in India, and the questions I get from a lot of people, are people who would be like, wow, I would like to do that, but I need to have regular Skype calls or things like that. And I had regular Skype calls at my job, and with minimal inconvenience. There was a little bit, but minimal inconvenience, and was able to make it work. So I thought that was surprising.
Mm-hmm. And what do you love about the people and the culture?
I think there's a real resourcefulness that I look up to. The way that people problem solve and come up with ideas. My landlord just being one example of it. Trying to think of just the way that he'll like fix things around the house in a way that I wouldn't have thought of. And there's a big friendliness oftentimes where I go, which is you feel very warm. My mom and aunt would, they felt like a celebrity to have the school kids come up to them and want to sing songs with them and really make them feel important. And so I think there's a real warmth about most Indian people that is super obvious and different than a Western type of culture where I was from.
Being in India when this devastating second wave is happening, seeing how it's being reported in the news globally, I'm sure you're getting a lot of concerned messages from friends and family. Is there anything that isn't, in your opinion, being adequately reflected?
I think that's a difficult question. I think they're accurately reflections certain places that are having a really horrifying time. And when I made a video about what was happening here, mostly just for my family too, because they were asking questions. And so I just basically made like what my life is like, so they could get a sense that it wasn't as horrifying as what they're seeing in the news. Some Indians also commented, like that was their experience too, that things weren't that bad where that they were. But aside from that, it does seem like things are bad in some certain places, and it is really scary. And I can imagine being in a situation like that with myself and my family, and being very scared as well. So it's difficult to say there.
Mm-hmm. Did you have thoughts of going home when the pandemic first started a year ago?
I had more thoughts now than a year ago, but mostly because it's been another year, so at that point we weren't sure it could have been over in a couple of weeks, right? We weren't really knowing what was going to happen. Now it's been a year. Like, this was a gut punch, definitely. Like, wow, we just had a year and this is much worse than what it was, like, so psychologically for me, it was quite difficult in that sense, because I mean, my problems seem very low. I'm almost hesitant to say them, but I'd like to travel or see more of India, have a travel channel that talks about travel as opposed to, other, so, so in a sense, like those are kind of small concerns, but those were my sort of psychological feelings of, yeah, it's tough, and just tough to see, like, when can we go outside and just, have a normal life again?
I think there's definitely this element of COVID fatigue, like absolutely
Yeah.
acknowledging that people are still dying and it's still a very serious situation, especially with these new mutant strains of the virus. But I was talking to
Hmm.
some friends in London who are also Australian and have decided to pack up their lives in London and move home. And there is this element of, well, one of the joys of being abroad is experiencing things and seeing places. And if you're not doing that while you are in this other country, you sort of start to question, why am I here? You know?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Did I question why am I here? I questioned like a sense of responsibility, like was it safer worldwide? Am I helping the greater good or all people for me to go home or stay here? I eventually obviously decided that it doesn't seem like that's going to do any difference, me being Michigan versus me being in India.
Yeah.
But I did consider that. And there is the question too, like, okay, well, if yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's because I'm happy in my, I'm okay with like a quiet life here as well. Like it doesn't bother me as much as I know it might bother some other people. In fact, at first there was an element that I kind of enjoyed it, but yeah, obviously I would prefer this wasn't happening. And
Yes, I think we all would.
yeah,
Ben, I'm curious, lots of people have
yeah,
taken up new hobbies in the past year.
sure.
What have you gotten into the habit of during lockdown? Have you read 100 books or, binged a few Netflix series or become an expert in something that you weren't before?
810 movies on the 1001 movies to see before you die list.
Oh,
I watched
wow.
810. Not I don't think fully during that period. Some of them, were before, but
That
I was
is,
probably at
that's an achievement.
a couple. Yeah, yeah. Over the past, I mean, that's maybe over the past couple of years, I really kind of was like, I'm going to watch better movies, and why don't I just start watching movies off this list? So
That's
that's
really
that's
cool.
been keeping me busy. Yeah. What about
Yeah.
yourself?
Oh, for me, it's been all about gardening. It's a little bit lame, but
Yeah.
I have really enjoyed growing my own food, actually. Um,
Nice.
and
Nice.
the weather has been terrible this year to get seeds going, just saying, here in
Hmm.
here in France. But that is
Yeah.
something that has really been, I think, really mentally calming, actually, just to
Mm.
well, not the fighting the slugs element, but other than
Yeah.
that, it's been really nice, and it's something I never stopped and took the time to do before. But with so much time at
That's nice.
home, I actually had time to
Mhm.
do that. So I
That's
do,
great.
I do see those memes
I would,
sometimes from people that are like, you've had all this time now, and if you haven't mastered another language or, gotten that degree, then you were never going to do it, kind of thing. And I think that's a bit
mhm,
harsh.
that is a bit harsh. Well, because sometimes it seems difficult to work in a certain sense. I almost feel like when I grew up in Michigan, there would be snow days, and so on the snow day, you were thought you were going to school, and now you're not going to school, so you wanted to go have fun. And in a sense, maybe it's the opposite of that. Um, uh, Especially recently, it's just been harder to work and
Mm.
harder to be productive because it's tough mentally to kind of with everything that's happening. But
Yeah,
that's cool that
definitely.
you got into gardening. That's the one
Had
downside
a
I feel like
bumper
about.
bumper tomato season last year.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, nice. That's cool. I'd eventually like to have a house and a little bit of land and a garden. So that would be the one reason why I would be looking forward to eventually going back to the USA, or at least that hemisphere, and buying some land and
Looking at your
having
videos, you
that
do
sort of
seem
thing.
to be in a kind of chill countryside sort of area. So, what sort of living situation do you have? Are you in an apartment or a house?
It's a house, 2 floors. I have the top floor, plenty of space. Um,
No
a little
garden.
bit out of. There's a garden. They call like a yard a garden, which maybe you guys call it that as well. So I could garden if I wanted to, but I I killed a few plants that I have because I neglected them. So one day maybe the next pandemic I'll conquer that.
Yeah.
But
Get through the movies first.
it's nice out here. Yeah, yeah. It is nice. I'm a little bit away from town, so but not too far away. That's quiet. Can hear the crickets at night. So
Just finally, Ben, what are you most looking forward to doing in India when the world finally does return to some kind of normal, and acknowledging absolutely that that is not going to be anytime soon in the country you're in?
mhm. It has been fun making a channel about India and interacting with the audience there. So I would love to meet people that have been watching the channel in all the different places in India that they are. So I've seen some of India, but I would like to see so much more. So that's the big dream. Hopefully sooner than later. But it's okay to, hopefully we get through this and as many people are as okay as possible.
Yeah, definitely. Well, please keep safe, and
Thank you.
I
You
look
too,
forward
Carly.
to watching more episodes in the future.
Thanks so much. Appreciate you having me. Thanks, everybody.
That's it for today. You can check out Ben's videos about India by searching Benjamin Jenks on YouTube. If you want to share your own expat experience, hit us up on social media. We are Expat Focus. Or you can join the conversations in our Expat Focus Facebook groups. Remember to check out our other episodes, including the recent one with Denise Savoya. She talks about repatriating from Turkey during the pandemic. And if you like what we do, please subscribe or follow us on your podcast app of choice. We'd also love it if you could leave us a review. I'll catch you next time.